Do you find yourself staring at your child's messy, illegible handwriting, wondering why something so simple seems to be so hard for them? Or maybe you've seen brilliant ideas in their head get completely lost somewhere between their brain and writing it on paper. Today, we're unlocking the mystery behind dysgraphia. So stay tuned. Well, hello, everyone. My name is Tracy Young, OG tutor extraordinaire, founder of theliteracykeys.com, and most importantly, mom of a dyslexic daughter. Welcome to my podcast, where you'll discover ways to unlock your child's reading potential. I'll share tips, strategies, and war stories that have happened along the way, because everyone deserves to be able to read. So let's get started. Welcome to the Literacy Keys. Today we're diving into a topic that can cause a lot of misunderstanding for both parents and kids: dysgraphia. You might have heard the term, or maybe you've never heard the term. And you might be here today because you've noticed your child's handwriting struggles and you're looking for some answers. Well, either way, you're in the right place. So let's start with, what is dysgraphia? Well, the word comes from the Greek dys, meaning difficulty, and graphia, meaning writing. So it's a specific learning disability that affects a person's ability to write. Now, this isn't the same as just having bad handwriting. There are plenty of us that fall into that camp, or simply being a sloppy writer. Dysgraphia is a neurological condition that impairs the motor skills and cognitive processes involved in writing. So basically, it's in the brain. There is a disconnect between the brain and the hand. So let's try to put this into context. Start by thinking of all the things your brain has to do when you write a simple sentence. It has to retrieve the right words, it has to remember how to spell them, and then at a physical level, it has to tell your hand and fingers how to move in a very specific manner, coordinate the form of letters and spaces. All of that, it can be really complicated for a person with dysgraphia. Either one or multiple of these steps is incredibly difficult. Now, I am hardly an expert on dysgraphia, but since there is comorbidity with dyslexia, I thought it worth discussing. Now, basically, comorbidity is a fancy term that simply means the frequency of two separate issues are present in the same person disproportionately. So, for example, someone with dyslexia, which is about the difficulty reading, may also have dysgraphia, which is the difficulty in writing. And many times, people don't even know that their child has dysgraphia. They simply think they don't like to write. So let's talk about the different types of dysgraphia. There's motor dysgraphia, and this is one that most people think of. It's the struggle with the physical act of writing. A child might have poor pencil grip, write the letters in inconsistent size and shapes, or even have trouble staying on a line. Their hand or their arm might get tired or even hurt from the effort of writing. There's another type, which is called spatial dysgraphia. This involves difficulty with the spatial organization of writing. So a child might have trouble with spacing between letters and words, or their sentences might drift up or down on a page. They may have trouble with things like drawing or following a complex maze. And the third type is dysgraphia with impaired written expression. And this is when the cognitive side of writing is the main issue. So in this instance, a child might have wonderful ideas in their head, but they can't quite organize them on paper. They might struggle with grammar, punctuation, and sentence structure, or the writing might be really disjointed and very hard to follow along. Now remember, these are not either or situations. A child can have one, two, or all three of these challenges. A child might be a fantastic reader and a great speaker, which can make their struggles with writing even more confusing. They might be labeled as lazy or defiant, when in reality, they are working 10 times harder than their peers just to get a single sentence on paper. This can lead to a lot of frustration. If you want to experience what they are experiencing, then try writing in your non-dominant hand. You can do it two ways. Try copying something in your non-dominant hand. See how long it takes you. How are the results? Are they as good as writing with your dominant hand? Now, try writing something, free-form thought, and capturing it on paper. This is even more difficult because of all the different steps that I talked about earlier that have to be coordinated and everything. So this brings us to the next question. Why does handwriting still matter? In a world of keyboards, tablets, and voice-to-text, it's a fair question to ask, so why do we still care about handwriting? In fact, it's a question that many schools started asking a decade or so ago. Unfortunately, the question led to a belief that teaching handwriting wasn't needed. Now, I'm not talking cursive. I am talking basic block letter handwriting, right? And it wasn't needed since students would have access to word processing programs. As a result, many schools today have moved away from extensive handwriting instruction at the lower elementary level. Sure, schools cover the basics like writing your name, but in general, handwriting is being relegated to the back burner. And in my opinion, which I have many, this has turned into a huge mistake. Why? Because learning doesn't happen just because you want it. Children need to be taught. Technology can't take care of everything. Right now, we have an entire generation that doesn't know how to hold a pencil and how to write more than a few words by hand. I encourage you, watch people when they are writing. It's really interesting to see the generational divide. Handwriting is still fundamental to early literacy. When a child learns to write a letter, and letter meaning a grapheme, not a letter like to grandma or to Santa Claus, they're not just practicing fine motor skills. They are connecting the sound of the letter with the visual representation. This process is critical for developing strong reading skills. It helps build a deeper understanding of how words are constructed. Children need to be corrected earlier rather than later when they're not making the letters correctly. So the excuse, oh, they'll just be able to type and use word processing, I'm not going to worry about it. I think that's wrong. If we use the analogy of when we build a house, a strong foundation is needed before you build the house. And a strong foundation allows us to build a multi-story house. Well, it's an analogy because it still works. And let's not forget the practical side. Handwriting is still part of life. We fill out forms, we sign documents, we even scribble down quick notes. For a child with dysgraphia, the goal isn't always to achieve perfect, elegant penmanship. That is not what we are talking about. The goal is to build a functional skill that allows them to navigate everyday tasks without feeling overwhelmed. It's about empowering them with the tools they need, both digital and physical, in order to succeed. This kinesthetic feedback, the feeling of the pen on the paper, the movement of the hand, it all helps to reinforce learning. And studies have shown that students who take notes by hand often have a better conceptual understanding of the material and can recall it more easily than those who type. But now I'm going to contradict myself because for a child with dysgraphia, technology absolutely plays a role and can be an essential accommodation. I'll discuss this in a little more detail shortly. But let's move on to the next point. So, what can a parent do? And here, I'd like to offer 3 specific things that a parent can do for a child with dysgraphia. Number 1, and this is really important, be patient and focus on their strengths. The most important thing you can do is to change your mindset. Acknowledge your child's struggle. Think back to writing with your non-dominant hand. And instead of saying, "Why is your handwriting so messy?" try saying, "I know writing is really hard for you. Let's find a way to make it easier." Validate their frustration. Celebrate their successes, no matter how small. Did they write one really neat sentence? Then that's a huge win. Celebrate it. Number 2, use multisensory strategies. Learning should engage more than one sense. For children with dysgraphia, incorporating touch, movement, and sound can make a huge difference in building those neural pathways. You can practice with different textures. Let them write letters in a tray of sand with finger paint or even with shaving cream on a tabletop. Warning, this can be really messy. What this does is it engages the senses of touch and can make the process fun and less intimidating. Use body movements. Have them skywrite letters in the air using their whole arm. This uses gross motor skills, which are often less challenging, and it builds muscle memory for the letter formation. Make it auditory. Have your child say the letter name and sound as they write it in shaving cream and sand or even on a towel, which is not as messy. For spelling, they can clap out the syllables or tap their fingers on each letter as they say it out loud. This connects the sound of the word to the physical act of writing. Also, try different writing instruments. A crayon versus a pencil versus a pen, a thick pencil compared to a thinner version. Change the type of paper. Maybe explore art paper, which can provide more friction when they are writing. Basically, experiment with all of these and see what your child prefers. The third point, provide accommodations and modifications. And this is about finding alternative ways for your child to demonstrate their knowledge. And this is what I meant when I said I'm going to contradict myself earlier, because technology does play a role for someone with dysgraphia. It's about leveling the playing field. I like to think of it as the audiobook for dysgraphia. Technology, let me say it once again. Technology absolutely plays a role. It just can't be a crutch. Remember, technology is your friend. You want to encourage the use of a keyboard for longer assignments. You can explore voice-to-text software, which can be a game changer for a child who has great ideas but can't get them on paper. Use a graphic organizer. Have them draw something that reminds them of the point they are trying to make. Apps like Google Docs have this built in, and there are other great programs available. If your child's using a tablet, consider adding a tactile screen protector that adds more friction and makes writing with a stylus easier. Also, modify assignments. Talk to your child's teacher. Can they take a picture of the homework on the board instead of copying it? Can they give a verbal report instead of a written one? Can they be given a partial outline for the notes instead of having to write everything from scratch? These are small changes that can reduce the writing load and let your child focus on the content. If your child has an IEP, make sure that some of these are included in the IEP. So let's summarize. Dysgraphia can be a tough road, but you are not alone on this journey. By understanding the challenge, valuing the importance of foundational skills, and most importantly, by providing a supportive and encouraging environment, you are giving your child the greatest gift of all, the belief that they can overcome their struggles and succeed. Thank you for listening to this episode. If you found it helpful, please share it with another parent who might need to hear the message. And remember, every child's journey is unique. The key is to find what works for you and them. Thank you. Well, that's a wrap. Thank you for listening to the Literacy Keys podcast. Follow us on social media, and most importantly, tell a friend. See you next week.